I had another video I was going to do today called Trumped, but I'm not so sure we are. Now that I know history, Finland rebuffed Russia, and they're not a Russian satellite. Romania just realized that the far-right candidate won because of Russian interference. Sure, the recount was correct, but wasn't correct was the social media interference in Romania. The social media that showed misinformation and lies to people saying that this guy on the ultra-right, supported by Putin, was going to give Romanians everything they wanted. Really? Romanians in the rural area, they're suffering from drought. How is he going to resurrect the rural communities? Sure, they're desperate. And he's got a solution? You do? Well, then I suggest you invest in climate change and low emissions of CO2 and methane all over the world. But don't make promises you can't keep. Because the drought in Romania is like the drought in America, like the flooding in Spain and America, like the activity of our mantle, which is now causing tsunami warnings in California off their coast. So, no, you can't do it single-handedly. You had Russian interference. And here, we know already that we've got interference in this election by China, and we didn't need Russia. Elon Musk put in over $260 million into Trump's campaign. And how'd he do it? And what did he do with the money? Well, since he's Putin's best bud too, he knows how the Internet Research Agency works. He was able to structure ads on his X platform, on Truth Social, and whatever other vehicles he had, Fox News, and all they did was circulate millions of ads to people who have been targeted for them. They even said that Trump loved Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and because of her, he would never overturn abortion. Never. But it's written in Project 2025, he intends to overturn abortion laws nationally. And Musk is already looking to overturn Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Sure, they'd like to privatize it. Privatize everything. Billionaires, huge corporations, they don't want regulation. They want to make more and more money. And that last time it happened was in the first Gilded Age. Now, with Trump's cabinet, we've got the second Gilded Age. $344 billion are what the proposed cabinet appointees own. $344 billion. And how much do you think they're going to give to we the people? The top 1%. They own 50% of all of America's wealth. They don't want regulation. Social media is a wild west. We didn't have social media back in the days. This is a new occurrence since 2007, 2008, 11. Wasn't there. And when Zuckerberg found out that he could manipulate elections with Cambridge Analytica, he did so. And now that Elon Musk knows all about manipulating people, because whether you want it or not, every one of us has a profile. Every one of us is known to major corporations on what our likes and dislikes are, and we're targeted for that. We don't own ourselves, we're the product, and it's called enshittification. That's what Cory Doctorow calls it, enshittification, and we've been enshittified. We are beholden to the corporations. We don't have free will. We don't even have free use of our content. And if you try to control it, it's probably, and I think it is, a felony. So what do I think? Well, I think since Romania has now called for special re-elections, I think America should do the same. What's the difference if it's a country of 20 million or another country like Finland or Poland or us, 360 million people? We were fooled, like Shakespeare said. What fools we mortals be. But you know what? It's human to be fooled. It takes great courage to admit you've been fooled and to say, hey, you don't want to be sacked. And in this case, we don't want to be trumped. Not with that cabinet. I don't want to be thinking about our national security and how we're going to be isolated from the world because most of Trump's picks are pro-Putin and they love him. Well, I don't want to be part of that axis of evil. I've seen what Putin and Iran do. Sure, they want Israel to make peace in a hurry. That's why the rebels in Syria are stepping up their game and going for Homs and Hama and the territories that Assad would have wanted. It means they got to divert their attention from Ukrainians. They can't drop their pedal landmines on the poor people of Kherson. No, not if they're diverted. And I hope they are diverted while all this is going on. And yes, I would like to see Bibi Netanyahu make peace with Hamas, not for Putin's sake, not for Trump's sake, but for the people of Israel. And I'd like to see him restore democracy and stop trying to be a wannabe dictator. It looks like wannabe dictators are being uncovered, and people who are suffering under their boots don't like it. Not even Russia are they pro-Ukrainian war, because their interest rates are going to 21%. They're at 9% now. So I don't know what it's going to take to call a special election in this country, and I don't know if the Democrats who are in power now have the guts to do it. But I remember when 9/11 occurred, that was a special time in New York's history. We didn't hold elections right then, and we can do the same. Inauguration in this country usually took place in March. Of course, in those days, they had horse and buggies. Then they got the railroad. Then it became easier to get to Washington from wherever you were. But the original date was in March. Nothing says that you have to lose a democracy on January 20th just because you're afraid of putting in the work. Well, I'd get Stanford involved in NYU and the Brennan Law Center. Timothy Snyder said, we're seeing here what happened in other despotic countries. Social media has manipulated us. And it has, and that never could have happened before. This is a new industry. It's a wild west of misinformation. But if you control it, you can put out millions and millions of ads and target people. Well, we've been targeted and we've been enshittified. The corporation got its way and Trump won. And then they're going to dismantle our democracy. Well, I don't want to be fearful of that happening. If Timothy Snyder says social media has been manipulated, and Heather Cox Richardson says social media has been manipulated in this election, that's enough for me. That says we need not a recount, because we already know the count is right, just like it was in Romania. It's how they got to that count, that slim margin of victory. I don't want to be trumped, and I don't want to be politicized by private corporations. We just saw what happens when people are dissatisfied with healthcare. United Healthcare, it was a tragedy that the CEO was murdered. But since I've been one of the people denied claims and had to go through the appeals process, not once, but 3 times for the same thing, 3 years in a row, when they knew I needed a particular diagnostic test. Not right that insurance companies don't work on our behalf. And it's also not right when they say America's productivity is better than all over the world. Well, sure it is. Because I bet more people are unemployed than anyone has counted. I know many 50-year-olds who have been out of work for years and being supported by their families. I know a lot of young people I read in the papers. They're living at home. They can never afford a house. And now everyone's saying that if you get an advanced degree, you're not going to make that much more money. The only reason that's happening is because the corporations are doing the same old thing, no competition, and they're not allowing anyone else to make a living. Kids lower on the pecking order, they make a living, and upper management makes a living. But they've hollowed out middle managers, the people who make corporations run. Well, if you're not producing new, why do you need managers? And that's what they're doing. In the last couple of years, we have about 1,000 billionaires, while the rest of us are suffering, when we needed universal pre-K, when we needed affordable childcare, when we need food stamps, when we've got homeless all over the country, not because they're derelicts, but because they can't afford the rents. And that's Blackstone, who owns so many properties. Sure, there's a lot of reasons big corporations don't want regulation. And I say, we the people matter. I want a strong, thriving middle class because it's good for all of us. And I want a ladder out of poverty because that's what I remember. And I want everyone to do well. I don't want to sit here and be scared to death that Trumpification and enshittification becomes a way of life forever. I don't want to be anyone's slave, and I don't want to hold my tongue, and nor should you. We've been fooled, but you know what? Now that we know, we should do something about it. No more Trump, we should have a free and fair election. Thank you. I hope somebody's listening who can actually put this into motion.